Mr. Landis, thank you for joining us. This is a sham election, isn't it?
Yes, this is not about popular sovereignty. Only Tunisia in the Arab world has real elections. And this is really Assad declaring that he is the winner in this uprising, the Syrian revolution, as the opposition calls it, and uprising, as the Syrian government calls it. And he's in a sense running against the opposition. He wants the world, and particularly the Arab countries, to re-engage with Syria and to see that to turn the page on this uprising. And that's his main slogan, is hope through work. It's telling the people, the Syrian people, keep your heads down, work hard, we're going to get out of this, that there is hope. It's not clear how much hope there is today for Syrians who are impoverished, 80% living in poverty, and very strict sanctions on Syria.
Right, so as you say, this is kind of an attempt today by the regime in Damascus at a bit of international rehabilitation for Assad himself. Is that likely to work internationally, do you think? I mean, tens of thousands of people are still missing in regime prisons. Civilians have been killed by his forces up and down the country. Is the world, though, after a relative lull in fighting, coming round to the idea of Assad staying in power?
It's going to be very slow. There's no doubt about it after such a grisly war. But it's going to happen because Syria is situated right in the middle of the Middle East. The situation for Arabs in Iraq, in Lebanon, and Jordan is just horrible. All of the economies are collapsing. And to maintain this sort of sanctions regime on Syria, which is an attempt to, in a sense, starve Syrians and hope that they will rise up against the government, I think is a failed policy. It's not going to happen. Assad has won this war, and the West is only making the situation worse for Syrians because its policies do not have the hope of overturning the government, and we've already seen a number of Arab countries begin to open their embassies, send back representatives to Syria, talk about readmitting them to the Arab League, and trade. The foreign minister of the United Arab Emirates said just the other day that we need to bring Syria back in. We need the economy to start moving again. We need to lift sanctions. Now, the EU foreign minister immediately responded to that, saying, no way, we're not going to do it. Assad's a killer, and we're going to keep sanctions on. But that's where we stand today in this uncomfortable situation. And Assad, through these elections, in a sense, is trying to say, I'm here. I'm not going away. You have to deal with me. He's saying that to the Syrian people and to the international community.
And do you think that those attempts to rehabilitate his image are likely to work? I mean, as you mentioned, we've seen some countries in the Arab League suggesting that Syria can now rejoin that body. Do you think that we may see as well pressure for Syrian refugees in other countries to return back to Syria?
There's a little bit of pressure, but the situation in Syria is so bad that it's really inhuman to send people back to Syria today. 80% of the people are living in poverty. There are schools. Half the schools were destroyed or terribly damaged. So were the hospitals. So the situation is going to limp along. I don't think the international community is going to rehabilitate Assad anytime soon. The Arabs will have to, I think, just in order to get the economy working in the region, because roads are closed through Syria, and it's right in the middle of the Arab world. So the situation is going to be very bad going forward for the next few years in Syria. And that's going to have a tremendous effect on Jordan, on Lebanon, on Iraq as well.
Yeah, I'd like to ask you just briefly, if I may, Mr. Landis, about some of the optics of the images we've been looking at today. Bashar Al Assad voting in Duma. This was a former rebel stronghold. It's where his forces are accused of using chemical weapons. What do you make of his decision to vote there today?
Well, he's letting the country know, as we've said, that it's over. I've won, and the opposition has lost. And now the opposition is still trying to make a show of the fact that it can still win this. that it's not over, that there might be further uprisings, that sanctions are good, and that America and Europe has to continue putting sanctions on the Syrians, very strict sanctions. Israel has scuttled at least 10 tankers, Iranian tankers, trying to bring fuel. 30% of Syrian land is still in opposition hands, either protected by the United States, the Northeast, or by Turkey in the Northwest. And they don't want that protection, the opposition doesn't want that protection to be lifted, or the United States or Turkey to leave Syria, because then Assad would take those territories. And so this is really a international campaign. To the opposition's campaign is to keep the international community from normalizing relations with Assad. Assad is trying to say the opposite. And we're going to see more of this. It's a real arm wrestle, and the war is far, far from over because it's so the international community is so involved in it.
All right. Joshua Landis talking to us there from the University of Oklahoma. Thank you very much indeed, sir, for your analysis on France 24 today.